and welcome to today's 2026 webinar series. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to join us. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping pieces. This webinar is being recorded and all presentation materials will be posted on our website. If you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature, and if time allows, our speakers will jump into that at the end. Now I'd like to introduce you to our speakers from Strategic Growth Partners. Thank you.
All right. Happy Wednesday. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Hillary Sutton. I am the Marketing and Communications Director at Strategic Growth Partners, and I'm here with Angela Webb. And just a little bit about SGP as we get started. It's a full life cycle growth partner for government contractors. We help clients get to revenue faster, reduce barriers to entry, and scale efficiently through an integrated shared services model that covers everything from market entry, business development, back office support, and M&A growth expansion. With fractional experts, entrepreneurial agility, and strategic partnerships, SGP delivers the capacity and confidence to compete and win across both federal and state markets. So I'm so pleased to share that for folks who hang with us for the next 30 minutes, they will receive access to a non-traditional cheat sheet that Angela's team has developed. So we're going to get to that at the end. So hang on for that goodie that you'll get to take away. But a little bit about Angela Webb, our speaker today. She's the president of the GovCon Xcelerator and Compliance SBU at Strategic Growth Partners. She brings a proven track record of helping companies navigate procurement, compliance, and commercialization in the federal marketplace through expedited pathways. Her career includes leadership roles at Verizon Federal, Deloitte, and Roivant Sciences, with expertise spanning procurement, enterprise acquisition, and health IT. She is recognized as a dynamic strategist who bridges innovation, compliance, and growth for businesses pursuing high-stakes federal, state, and local opportunities. If you're here today, I hope you're ready to drink from a fire hose because Angela knows so much. We're so excited to dive into this. So, Angela, welcome. So glad to chat with you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So let's just start. There's a lot of buzz about non-traditional contracting in GovCon lately. We're hearing it everywhere. Let's just start with unpacking just a simple explanation of what it even is, and then why are non-traditional contracts advantageous?
Sure. So non-traditional is a buzzword. That's a great way to say it. It's been around for some time, as I'm sure the audience is well aware. We've seen a shift in the landscape from a procurement perspective with the federal government over the last year or so. Some executive orders came out that really forced internal procurement and acquisition teams across the federal government to really focus on opportunities to get to market quicker. How do we get things into our ecosystem, out to the front lines, out to the end users, into the program teams the quickest? And how do we make it compliant and easy to do business with vendors that are both commercial and also currently in the federal landscape? So that's pretty much the background or the change that we've seen over the last year or so. And I don't anticipate it stopping anytime soon. In fact, we're seeing more of the non-traditional solicitations, even every week we see more and more than we see the week before. So it certainly is on a path to continue an uptick.
Okay, can you kind of double click on the advantageous piece? Like for someone who maybe is not familiar at all, why even pursue a non-traditional pathway?
Well, it's quicker time to market. So I'm sure we're all very familiar with traditional pathways whereby it can take 3 years sometimes for an IDIQ award. Non-traditional, the timelines are shortened, and the government typically gives you an opportunity to introduce your idea, your solution, your product through a white paper or a pre-proposal briefing prior to them formally approving you to move to the next stage, which is a full proposal. What does that mean for companies? It means that you have a lot of at-bats to determine if you're moving forward. And that's certainly what we want to do, especially in this landscape, especially for small businesses when time is money and we only have so much of both of those things. So getting out white papers and waiting for responses is easier when you know you're going to hear back within 30 to 45 days typically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like using all of the tools in your tool belt.
Yeah, exactly.
As people learn more about non-traditional contracting, what do you think the most important thing for them to understand is?
They can't do it alone. Much
Mm,
like the traditional landscape, you really have to invest in vetting partners and determining how you want to go to market and who you want to go to market with. We always talk about our three-pronged approach. Whenever you work with GXC here at SGP, sell with, sell to, sell through. We do those things in the traditional side. We want to make sure that we're replicating that in a way on the non-traditional side. We want to have options and opportunities, and we want to maximize those for every pitch, for every engagement, every conversation, every event you attend. So that would probably be the most important thing that I think folks need to take away. I also think it's important and imperative to ensure that you understand where you fit. So you
mm.
can't just walk in and throw out a bunch of white papers. It has to be very targeted. It has to have research behind it. You have to be moving forward based on the money and based on the agencies that are buying what you have, similarly to the traditional side. So you have to have a plan.
Yeah, okay. And what's the best way to kind of dig in and get that research done?
Time, but you really have to invest, unfortunately, you really have to invest in reviewing documentation that's available.
Yeah.
You have to look at the contracts that have been awarded. You have to look at the folks that are having conversation on the open boards of the consortiums. You have to join the webinars. You have to attend the events, and you have to look for anything that's been published, both from a budget perspective and from a program perspective. So budget, see where the money's going. Program, how are they moving that money forward? Are there initiatives behind it for modernization? Does the money fall in areas where your product could be used or your service could be provided?
Okay. And then curious, what should we assume that contracting offices know and don't know about non-traditional contracting strategies?
I always go in assuming they don't know anything, and I
Okay.
let them tell me what they know. And so, what does that mean for you? Always be prepared and have both a talk track that includes the non-traditional opportunities or the non-traditional ways they can get to you, as well as having them look at your one pager. It goes back to the capability statement. Give them
Mm,
something, leave it on their desk or leave it in their email if it's digital, put it on your website. Invest in partnerships that get you another avenue to market. So, do you have a partner that has an OTA that you can push work to? Do you have a partner that has a sole source capability that you can push your client, i.e., government agency, and your product to and through? Those are things or tools that you need to have in your toolbox, and they need to be printed on your capability statement and they need to be part of your elevator pitch.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, it's easy to assume we should just follow the lead of the contracting offices. But, I've heard you say before, contractors really do have more leverage than you might think. So talk to me a little bit more about the practical ways we can work as like thought partners for the contracting officers and personnel.
Yeah, again, I think it's bringing the information to them, but double down on that. So if you're thinking about going to the Army and talking about wanting a prototype OTA award for your brand new product that you've stood up, let's look at that in two different ways. Has that product been in a demo environment where you can get a letter of recommendation that you can take with you as part of the package you leave behind? Does that product sit in a pilot form in another agency environment where you can refer said agency that you're talking to today to that agency to have a discussion with? Also, are there commercially available products that are similar, but yours is already federalized? That's a huge value add. I think you bring that to the table. I think you also talk to them about anything that's been awarded in other environments that's similar to what you have, doubling down on yours with your additional value add. So and so, provided this product over in the Navy, and they were awarded that under an OTA, and that OTA functions for 12 months. And this is how much their award was for. And here are the feature set of that product. ours goes above and beyond and does this and meets the Army's mission, and it does it for cheaper, and we can be faster and stronger because of these things. And here are our invested partnerships. Here's how long we've been in business. So it's not always bad to reference competitors. Sometimes it can strengthen your sales pitch, and it strengthens the visibility of what you're trying to create efficiencies around for that customer that you're talking to.
Wow. Okay. So it's more than just knowing your product very well. There's so much more to it. It's knowing the whole environment and really doing your research on that.
Absolutely. We should always know what our competitors are doing, good and bad, right? There's times where we may want to use our competitors to go to market. If you have a feature set that your your partner doesn't have, or your competitor doesn't have, there should be a conversation there to say, how can we strengthen what you're taking, bring us with you. But then in other areas, you want to go it alone and go against them, and use your strengths and new feature sets and additional uh, product ability or availability against them, right? For lack of a better way to say it.
Any other advice on when you're working with contracting officers, about just taking in, like, how we can help them understand non-traditional contracting and taking advantage of those quicker pathways?
I think, again, referencing things that have already previously been done for
Mm-hmm.
contracting officers, and I'm clearly not a contracting officer, never have been, so I want to put words in anyone's mouth, but having interacted and continuing to interact with contracting officers across the DoD slash DOW and Homeland Security, I will say that they don't know what they don't know. And when you give them information, they will digest that and come back to you with questions if they're interested in your product. So adding 2 minutes to your sales pitch, or an extra slide to your deck, or a note at the end of your capability statement could be the difference between getting a call back and not. Showing them and talking to them about how others around them, other military departments and other DHS sub-agencies, have awarded OTAs, have brought in commercial technology, quote unquote, to affect a mission or affect end user groups or program teams. Talking to them about that shows them that there's no fear and that they can reduce risk because it's already being done somewhere else.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. So let's talk about FARs, DFARs. When you're dealing with FARs, DFARs, or even FedRAMP, the process can feel like it drags on. What strategies actually help speed things up without cutting corners?
Unfortunately, with the FedRAMP requirements, there is no cutting corners. So when it comes to FedRAMP specifically, OTAs, I say, are the way to go. You can build in that process to your OTA delivery. You can ask for an ATO, obviously, to operate in that environment without needing full FedRAMP certification and requirement day one. My personal opinion is that's the quickest, easiest way to move a contract forward without getting stopped by a security team at an agency. In terms of FARs and DFARs, you have to remember, CSOs and BAAs are solicitation types. They're not contract types. So when it comes to the contract awards under those specific solicitation types, there could potentially still be FAR streamlined FAR requirements. So there may still be things that you have to be in compliance with. It just depends on what they pick and choose to add to those awards and how they award it. If it's a sole source, you're typically going to see full FAR requirements. If it's an OTA, you may not see any FAR requirements. If it's a grant, there are different FAR requirements there. So it just kind of depends on how they award it. So this goes back to the market research part of you being prepared to have the conversation and also being prepared to go to market under non-traditional. You have to look at how they've awarded previously. You have to look at the agencies around them, especially if they're a sub-agency, making sure that you understand how things are being done before you put those recommendations forward and try to educate them on that. And part of that is understanding if you can be in compliance with a fully FAR or DFAR regulated contract. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot of talk about OTAs, CSOs, SBIRs. Sometimes people lump all of these together like, oh, they're all just OTAs. What do you think are talk about that. And also, what are the biggest misunderstandings and how do you clear that up?
Okay, so we'll just go back to basics. So BAAs and
Please go back to basics.
CSOs, yeah, are solicitation types, and so are sitters and sitters. They're solicitation types. Your contract award is going to have terms and conditions like any commercial contract that you have.
Okay.
The amount of FAR requirements depends again on the type of contract award. Under BAAs and CSOs, so under BAAs, I have never seen an OT awarded under a BAA. OTs are awarded consistently under CSOs. OTAs award OTs. And if we need to get a slide together to send everyone for all the acronyms, we can certainly do that. But under BAAs and CSOs, we also see IDIQ contracts. We see sole source contract awards, cooperative purchase agreements, grants, all of the above. We see those. So it just depends, again, which way you want to go. Where does your product fit? Where does your solution fit? Where do your partners fit? When you put everything together and you have your go-to-market strategy, can you prototype? Does that fit under an OTA? Can you move that through a consortium? Can you have conversations to move the contracting office in the OT direction? And are you prepared to deliver on a shorter timeline? Because OTAs have historically been known to have shorter delivery timelines. So you just have to make sure that all these things that you're putting together and getting, the contracting office and the program team across the line on non-traditional, that you're ready to deliver that way as well.
Okay. Okay. We have like a little over 13 minutes left. I just want to let everyone know we do have a Q&A function here. And at the end, we're going to try to answer a few of your questions. So if you have a question for Angela, you can drop that into the Q&A. And I also want to go ahead and let you know that we are going to have a downloadable non-traditional contracting cheat sheet. And I think we're going to be adding that into the chat, although I'm not totally positive on how to add something to the chat for everyone. So as long as we have our listening ears on, I'll share. It is strategicgrowthpartners.com/NTC, as in non-traditional contracting, dash cheat sheet. That's strategicgrowthpartners.com/NTC dash cheat sheet. And you can go and get the cheat sheet, the takeaway that we'll have for you at the end of our time today. So let's keep going. I've got more questions. I hope you still have energy for this, Angela. Okay.
Yes.
Advice. What advice do you have for folks who may be on this webinar today and don't even know where to start?
I would say have a serious conversation with your team about the future of your product/solution. Where do you want to be? Where do you think you can make the most impact? And where are you passionate? Because we don't want to just go into this, thinking, oh, I'll do the first thing that comes along. Although as a small business, I understand sometimes we have to do deals and get contracts and move certain types of ways to scale and mature the business. But really focus on 80% of your effort in an area where you have passion to play the long game. With non-traditional contracting, we really want to rely on that for the short game. We want to focus on that to really maximize our opportunities in the federal space. Get in, get out, white paper, greenlit, proposal phase, award, do it all over again. But certainly there can be hangups and issues. There can be problems with funding. Contracting officers can leave. The government can shut down, as we know all too well. So just be prepared to hang in there, just in case those things do happen. Make sure that you know the partners that you want to talk to. Make sure you know who your competitors are. So you gather all of that information, and then you come back to the table and say, okay, now we can develop our go-to-market strategy. Now we can figure out where our pricing should be. Now we know the efficiencies that we need to speak to and the cost savings that we need to speak to when we're engaging with the government. Because remember, the government is a corporation in terms of how it acts, right? And so we need to arm them with the same information that we would if we were going to a Verizon or a Deloitte or a Roivant. How are we saving them money? How are we making their processes, their people, and their tools more efficient? So your end game or your end line of any conversation that you have with the agencies, whether it's at the program level or the contracting officer level, should really include those two big pieces of information.
Okay, that's really good. What else? We've seen this administration putting an increased emphasis on emerging technology and, of course,
Mhm.
AI. How can companies use that momentum to get in the door with non-traditional opportunities?
So when it comes to AI, I mean, AI is in everything that we see. Every non-traditional contract opportunity that comes out has areas of interest typically. And those areas of interest always have a focus area, at least they have for the past 8 months that I've seen for AI. So I would make sure you have an AI partner in your back pocket, and I would make sure you understand how AI can support whatever you're taking into the market, because I can guarantee you at some point, whatever your tool set is or whatever your solution is, the government is going to ask you if there's AI in it or if you have plans on your roadmap for AI integration. And they're going to be looking for things like forecasting capabilities, efficiencies around facilities and resources, things of that nature, a lot around the supply chain in general, and operations.
Okay, I was just going to ask anything, outside of the buzz around tech and innovation, what else you're seeing that's really kind of getting traction right now?
Yeah, so those main areas, operations,
Say that again. Operations.
operations, so like modernization of the operational processes and the locations. Anything related to organic industrial base to include utilities, logistics, supply chain, AI, as we said. Those are the main things that we're seeing consistently.
Okay. And then if you have anything to add to this point, the government keeps talking about the need for advanced skills in areas like AI, cyber,
Mhm.
data. What should companies keep in mind when building teams to stay competitive?
I would say, obviously, offshoring would be a big no-no. I think we all know that at this point. So whether it's the tools themselves or the personnel that support those environments, you want to make sure that they're stateside. Obviously, from a security perspective, you want to make sure that roles and responsibilities are provisioned properly and that everything's documented, because that is a requirement for most things. Even on the non-traditional side, they will at some juncture ask you for that information. And then in terms of personnel in general and skill sets, I would say maximize the resources that you have versus going out and hiring before contract award. You always run into the situation with government contracts, especially for small companies, where it's a chicken and egg. Do I hire these people to show the government that I'm serious about this, or do I wait until I get a contract award? It's a balance, and it is definitely a struggle. There are companies you can partner with. Again, emphasis on vetting your partners. If someone calls you and says, hey, we think we have a complementary service to your product set and we want to go to market, great. Come back with a list of questions and make sure that they do what they say, and that they have the capabilities that they're showing on their websites and in their one pagers, and check in on their past performance if they have any to share. The last thing you want to do is get a contract and then lose it because you chose the wrong partner. So essentially, again, vetting through that partner process, making sure you're going to the table with the right people and using folks that are complementary of what you have. So don't necessarily buy it, build it with your partner, and then
Mm,
look to supplement it after you get that past performance under your belt.
build it, supplement it. I just want to let people know I saw a question in the chat. Are we going to send out the slide deck? It's really just one slide, guys. So we will send you the slide and we will send you a link to download the cheat sheet. So you'll get this information in a follow-up email. Couple other questions that we've got. We've got several in the chat that I want to get to. The first one, is pricing different for non-traditional contracting versus the traditional route?
Yes, it is. The way you lay it out is different.
Okay.
It may not end, on a different note. You may get to the same numbers, but the way you deliver your product or solution is going to look very different on the non-traditional than on the traditional side. Unless under a BAA or a CSO, you get a regular IDIQ award or a regular sole source award, in which case your pricing will look the same as it does on the traditional side, unless the requirement set is massively different for that specific opportunity. But when you're talking about OTs or OTA awards specifically, typically you get a 12 to 24-month period to deliver. And then you could get a third OTA award to roll out on an enterprise level or to produce for production. So that the pricing is not going to look the same as if you're doing it all in one fell swoop. You're not doing a phase one feasibility, market research. We have this idea, we're building this thing, does it work? Phase two, prototyping it to get it where you want it, delivering it in a small government environment, potentially rolling out on a miniature level from there. Phase three, full production, pushing it out through the enterprise. Those look very different when you break them out individually and price them individually. So focus on the market research side. When you're pulling pricing, pull as much pricing as you can find at the direct line item level, so that you are looking at things from a delivery perspective for each phase of the scope versus this is how much this other company was awarded for this entire project or program.
Okay, that's really good. From the Q&A, what are your top tips for identifying OT opportunities, since most of them are not listed in SAM.gov?
Consortiums and conversation with program teams. Consortiums are huge. A little tip, make sure that you're looking at the difference between consortiums that are requesting you to pay and the consortiums that are free to you to sign up and gather information from. I would check those out independently of one another and weigh the pros and cons before you jump into paying for a ton of consortiums. AFWorks and SoftWorks are fantastic. You'll hear me rave about them until the end of time. They're always very small business friendly, typically great turnaround times. Conversations in those environments, even if you're in listen only mode for the majority of the time you participate, is priceless. You are hearing other government contractors talk about what they're trying to do, who they're talking to in the government, how they plan on delivering. You're hearing program teams who are putting out SIBR sitters as well as OTAs come to the table, talk about their issues, their inefficiencies, their problem sets. It's priceless. So I would focus there. And then I would go through USA spending, just trying to be budget friendly. So we all know that's a free tool. And I would look for awards that are coming on the heels of those types of engagements so I can see what's getting awarded.
Okay, great. I just want to share the URL one more time for folks who are looking to go download that cheat sheet right now. It is strategicgrowthpartners.com/NTC cheat sheet. So that's strategicgrowthpartners.com/NTC cheat sheet. Okay. One more question. We're getting close here. Do non-traditional contract opportunities have to be new versus something standard, such as IT O&M?
You have to be innovative. There has to be some type of R&D related to it, typically. And ultimately, that can be done fairly easily from the program team or the contracts team. If you're talking about instituting AI in an environment that wasn't there before, that's innovative. That's different than they've done it before. If they're trying to digitize paper records, that's new, that's different, that's innovative. So small tweaks to the verbiage can ultimately make that non-traditional contract friendly, I guess is the way I would say it.
Okay. Can you address the level of effort needed, typical readiness requirements, and costs of pursuing these non-traditional methods for small businesses looking to have more context of actual operations impact to use these pursuit methods?
That's a very large question that has a very robust answer. How would I do it? That's all I can tell you is how I would do it. I would, if I had a small team of people, if I was splitting the difference and I had sales folks and I had business development people, at the very least, I would be doing 50-50. 50% traditional, 50% non-traditional in conversation, in sales pitches, in events, in meetings, in opportunity pipeline development. And from a capture and proposals perspective, we have a fantastic team over at SGP. So I'll defer to Melissa. I don't know if she's on, or I can touch base with her later and see if she can throw something out on LinkedIn about what her team would recommend. But from that perspective, I would also think that you would want it to be 50-50. I would always go more non-traditional because that's where the money is moving right now.
Okay.
I think we have probably 2 to 3 years, again, where we continue to see that uptick. And I would want to take advantage of that while I could, especially because it's so small business friendly. So if it were me, I would probably do 60/40.
Fantastic. Okay. 10 seconds left. Angela, thank you. This was so informative. Great. An afternoon
Thank
well
you.
spent.
Well, thank you. And hopefully, if anyone has any questions, they can reach out and we can try to answer those in a follow-up.
Absolutely. Visit us at strategicgrowthpartners.com and you'll be getting an email from us within the next day or so. All right.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody. Have a great
everybody.
afternoon.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you to our speakers for such a great presentation. As a reminder, the webinar recording and presentation will be posted on our website along with all other past webinars by the end of today. If you have any questions on our organization or our initiatives for upcoming events, please reach out to info@nationalassociation.org. Thank you again for joining us today. This does conclude our webinar. As an added bonus, we will be doing a second webinar this month, so we hope you'll join us next week to discuss contracting trends in 2026. Thank you and have a great day.